Hello, my name is Juan Duarte. I'm an artist and researcher on environmental sound at the Department of Art and Media of Aalto University. And I'm also part of the Research in Art and Technology group led by Professor Laura Belov. Atmospheric embodiment is oriented toward an embodied listening of the weather, departing from ideas related to hypersensitivity to atmospheric conditions. This article also grounds atmospheric embodiment through a relationship between the surrounding weather, envelopment, and immersion, particularly in the context of music and sound. This article also reviews the so-called Otoacoustic emissions, a sound composition technique to embody our atmosphere, considering the potential connections with environmental sound. Drawing from these diverse disciplines, the article proposes a media installation, currently in progress, that collects these notions to experience an atmospheric embodiment, presenting an installation based on otoacoustic emissions and environmental sound. This novel approach aims to attune individuals to the nuanced expressions constituting the voice of weather. In this previous article of my authorship, I go into detail about the role of instruments in atmospheric listening. By reviewing these examples of artworks that advocate for ecocentrism, presenting it as a strategic approach to cultivate empathy towards natural environments by acknowledging nature as an independent entity. From the perspective of the artist and researcher on ecology Janine Randerson, instruments that combine art and science like these ones serves as conduits for giving the weather a voice. However, Randerson raises intriguing questions. Does this voice emerge at the point of information gathering, during translation into sound, or within the minds of the audience? Through instrumental relations, these practices enable humans to attune to the profound, otherwise imperceptible voice of nature, resonating beyond the confines of human language. Centering on the voice of weather, atmospheric embodiment proposes examining weather through sound, offering a medium to connect with polysemic notions of envelopment and immersion. This exploration converges in a space of in-betweenness, where a hypothetical voice of weather emerges from remote sensing, using musical instruments as conduits to give nature a voice, a self-played harmony attuned to natural agencies, emphasizing harmony and resonance with the environment. In that same article, I also present augury, a piece that concerns atmospheric listening from the point of view of embodied and situated forms of knowledge. In augury, I was interested to explore the myth of Tezcatlipoca, an Aztec deity of great significance, as closely associated with providence, divination, the night winds, hurricanes, obsidian stones, the unconscious, among other attributes. The name Tezcatlipoca itself translates to smoking mirror in the Nahuatl language. Ancient Mexicans, looking into the obsidian mirrors, would be able to gaze not only their reflection, but also their surroundings. Around the 16th century, obsidian mirrors were transported to Europe. Their use was named scrying, referring to a kind of liminal perception through observations into obsidian mirrors as mediums. In Europe, scrying was popularized in occultist practices by the Elizabethan magician, astrologer, and mathematician John Dee. The integration of weather instruments into cultural practices throughout history has bestowed upon them a profound role in shaping human interactions with the environment. They have functioned not merely as tools for predicting weather patterns, but as mediums through which it has been speculated how nature expresses itself. This interrelation between humanity and nature becomes even more pertinent in the face of contemporary challenges like climate change. My research aims to introduce a hybrid interaction that spans technologies, embodiment, and the semantic understanding of weather. Thus, an integrated perspective is argued as indispensable in constructing a voice that resonates with concepts such as envelopment, immersion, harmony, and resonance. I use the term divinatory interfaces to describe a type of situated way of knowledge and their association with weather divination, able to create an intimate and sensorial experience for the participants. By engaging with the obsidian pieces and the mirror, visitors physically and metaphorically connect with the concept of Tezcatlipoca and the smoking mirror, blurring the boundaries between ancient mythology and contemporary artistic expression through technologies. Atmospheric Embodiment advocates for an inclusive exploration of the voice of weather, recognizing that it stems from a synthesis of technological medium, embodied experiences, and culturally situated knowledge. By embracing a multidimensional perspective, we pave the way for a resonant dialogue with the weather, allowing us to navigate the complexities of our environment with a newfound awareness and attunement to the atmospheric order. Moving on, I would like to make a distinction between weather, climate, and atmosphere. For that, I'm referring to John Durham Peters, who distinguishes between weather and climate. Weather more related to the kairos, the moment, and climate as a chronos, historical encyclical time. Climate in this context encapsulates the long-term averages spanning decades, centuries, millennia, and beyond. I propose that, becoming attuned to the voice of weather, we need a familiarity with these temporal relations of the weather in the momentary rhythmic time of kairos. Tim Ingold aligns with Peters' distinction, noting that weather emerges as the immediate, the sensory encounter with the elements, whereas climate in its measured form reflects a broader statistical perspective. Tim Ingold describes the atmosphere as an environment for living organisms, essential in enabling perception, emotion, and sensation. The atmosphere, when identified as a functional medium, has a role in facilitating the transmission of sound, making it a vital medium for communication. Similarly, it serves as a conduit for light propagation and enables the wind to carry scents, making smell perceptible. The qualia, the subjective conscious experience and qualitative dimension of the atmosphere, extends into affective relations, fostering sympathetic connections among beings, influencing sensory perceptions, mediating our interactions with the natural world. The atmosphere in sound and music transcends the boundaries of personal perception, fostering a shared and immersive encounter with the affective dimensions of sound. Sound, like weather, can evoke collective sensations and envelope a multitude of bodies within shared experiences. Qualitative affects and embodiment of atmospheres are remarkable in music and sonic arts. For the musicologist Friedrich Riedel, atmosphere transcends individual bodies and conscious subjects, rather creating a collective and spatially extended impact. Music and sound serving as parameters that modulate situations, scenes, rituals, or musical passages into coherent and meaningful wholes. This perspective emphasizes the affective agency achieved by the atmospheric qualities in music and sound, able to create a harmonious and meaningful collective experience. In the context of music and sound atmospheres, they resonate with individual listeners, but also articulate a collective unison that transcends the boundaries of personal perception, fostering a shared and immersive encounter with the affective dimensions of sound. In the exploration of the affective qualities across music and atmosphere, there is a relevant parallel that lies in the work of Athanasius Kircher, whose theories of affects achieved through musical language known as Affektenlehre underscore music's capacity to imitate or invoke vocal inflections corresponding to specific emotions. Kircher's Musurgia Universalis define 8 sentiments evoked by music intervals, grounded in the scientific and philosophical currents of his time. Thinking about the affective qualities of the voices of the weather, one could wonder, can this voice communicate or express sentiments and feelings? Does it create an enveloping experiencing, fostering an awareness of how the weather shapes us, while simultaneously acknowledging our role as living organisms shaping the very atmosphere we inhabit? This emphasis in the views of Athanasius Kircher and the Mexican poet and philosopher Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz during the 17th century would identify with a space of hypersensitivity that encourages individuals to be attentive to sounds and voices that might not otherwise be perceptible. The concepts of harmony and music of the spheres for Kircher and Sor Juana would take into account rulers' natural and human consonance and resonance with their subjects. Moving on, I presented notion or concept of envelopment in atmospheres. Since the meteorological instruments fall short to capture these nuances, our embodied awareness as living organisms allows us to sense and respond to the interplay of atmosphere, emphasizing the levels of habitability across living forms and their surrounding environments. Derek McCormack presents the notion of envelopment as a kind of embodiment of distributed sense or feeling that encapsulates mood and emotion. Envelopment extends to the adaptive responses of bodies in changing environments and ecological processes, providing profound insights on our embodied engagement with the world. Envelopes put together the embodiment of a distributed sense or feeling which encapsulates mood and emotion. Envelopment is a sensory encounter that accentuates the transformative power of sound, creating an immersive environment that envelopes individuals and collectives into a distinctive atmosphere. In contrast to meteorological instruments, our innate awareness of living organisms allows us to sense and respond to the interplay of atmospheres, emphasizing the levels of habitability between various life forms and their surrounding milieus. Anne Holzmüller details the concept of immersion as a transformative mode of entering spaces, integrating into the fabric of constantly changing atmospheric conditions. This concept not only enriches our perception of atmospheric processes, but also significantly contributes to the aesthetic of music, even in the era of contemporary digital technologies such as virtual and mixed reality. Immersion remains a potent conduit capable of composing multisensory conditions. Immersion extends beyond the digital realm, having been a language employed throughout history to create multisensory conditions that resonate with mystical, spatial, and ecstatic experiences. From religious ceremonies to entertainment spectacles, immersion has been a powerful tool for orchestrating profound encounters that transcend the ordinary. Holzmüller observes that in creating an immersive atmosphere, aesthetic principles akin to the staging of a theater production are essential. This observation aligns with the perspective of Tim Ingold, who emphasizes the need for an aesthetic principles in generating atmospheres. Holzmüller further illustrates how musical immersion has been meticulously staged, especially in rituals and concerts, to offer cultural cues on how to attune oneself to sonic environments. This practice echoes historical traditions such as 18th century multidimensional musical performances, where the convergence of time, place, and solemnity of ceremonial events during musical performances produce remarkable effects. These events became a remarkable cultural phenomenon, shaping the collective experiences of music within specific atmospheres. The field of biometeorology is relevant to this article because I find this aspect of hypersensitivity to the weather. And it is a field of knowledge that comes from warfare technologies. And well, it's found that the interaction between wind and with sand, snow, or oceanic waves, it's a process that also charges particles of the air electrically. And therefore, the term meteoropathy is the condition of being hypersensitive towards weather changes in certain sector of the population, and it manifests in affective symptoms weeks before noticeable weather shifts. These affective symptoms, of course, is changes in mood or feeling under the weather, as this kind of popular folkloric term of feeling sick. So I'm thinking if this notion of feeling sick or feeling under the weather could be translated into audio perception and be a way of anticipating weather changes, offering a unique hypersensitivity consonance that articulates the voice of weather. The otoacoustic emissions present an engaging aspect of our hearing system, producing ghost tones within the ear by combining different frequencies. This phenomenon is akin to an active amplifier, where energy leakage within the cochlea creates a distorted, filtered, and resonating tone. These emissions were first theorized in the first half of the 20th century by the auditory scientist Thomas Gold, and later were proven by physicist David Kemp in the mid-1970s by introducing of a small microphone inside human ears to register them, particularly, as in this picture, in newborn individuals. Remarkably, the otoacoustic emission response disappeared a few minutes after death. Hence, these emissions imply that the cochlea is an active sound production organ instead of a passive echo of external sound. Remarkably, the cochlea, with its active capabilities, has been studied since the ancient explorations of Athanasius Kircher. Kircher's tubocochleato, instrument model on the cochlea's spiral structure, serves as an early example of using this anatomical form to amplify sound. The use of spiral-shaped artifacts for sound amplification and giving voice to spaces and inanimate objects such as sculptures further underscore the historical fascination with utilizing the cochlea's design. For Kircher's description, this spiral-shaped artifact amplifies auditory stimuli and resound them through diverse objects to enable them to speak, in a gesture that is symptomatic of the Baroque fascination with marvel and illusion. The Jesuit thus draws on his understanding of acoustics, otology, and more to alter auditory perception through sound manipulation. The music composer Marianne Amacher considered that people themselves are instrument-like, since the ear has the potential to both receive and emit sound. Amacher explored otoacoustic emissions as embodied sound, exploring installations and compositions that can only be fully experienced within one's ears. Amacher aptly terms her creations as perceptual geographies, emphasizing the subtle relationships between sound emission, space, and the listener's body. Her work would often encourage the audience to embody sound through space by exploring it during her performances. Echoing the approach of Amacher in the emerging research of embodied listening, it has been expressed that the body can be a site for composition. Amacher music demonstrates how our mindful listening can already be embodied, and giving predominancy to subjectivity, corporeality, and individuality, making echolocation and listening as new ways of seeing. Her works open new avenues for listening, pushing the limits of subjectivity, corporeality, and individuality in material terms. In this image, I show the work in progress of this exhibition called The Weather's Resonance, which is trying to develop some kind of interface that follows or represents the functionality of the tubocochleato by Kircher. So I'm creating this kind of interface that it's sensitive to touch, and it triggers a series of sound composition that is based on the principles of otoacoustic emissions. So it's a combination between weather data, sonification, and also the resonance that it creates within the listener and the space at the same time. I'm using this kind of surface transducer speakers that are mounted in a room, and then the audience can resonate with that kind of experience. Thanks for your attention.